Whatsoever you do to the least of my people, that you do unto me.
I'm Bishop William Byrne. The annual Catholic Appeal is our chance to help those in need, the homeless, the hungry, and our partnering organization. Please join me in answering Jesus' call to love your neighbor by donating at diospringfield.org.
That you do unto me.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
Mass Citizens for Life sets up the Truth About Choice display at UMass. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
Easter greeting cards for the homebound, and outreach valuable beyond measure. I'm Kathy Harrington with the story.
And I'm Steve Kiltonic. With Earth Day just around the corner, I interviewed several individuals who are directly involved in implementing Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si', his clarion call to care for our common earth.
It's coming up for you next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. Well, it's been almost 1 year since Pope Leo XIV was elected pontiff on May 8th, 2025. Last week, author and Vatican insider Christopher White spoke with Steve Kiltonic about the days leading up to the conclave and about some of the leading papal candidates. Now in part two, White discusses the dynamics of the conclave and some of the behind-the-scenes factors that led to the election of American-born Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost.
On May 7th, 2025, 16 days after the death of Pope Francis, the College of Cardinals entered the Sistine Chapel to elect a new pope. The 133 electors who attended this conclave were from a very diverse group of 80 countries. 80% had been appointed by Pope Francis. At a final mass in the Vatican before the conclave was sequestered, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, Dean of the College of Cardinals, reminded the electors of the gravity of their decision.
Siamo qui per invocare l'aiuto dello Spirito Santo, per implorare la sua luce e la sua forza, perché si è eletto il Papa di cui la Chiesa e l'umanità hanno bisogno in questo tornante della storia tanto difficile, complesso e tormentato.
Christopher White, who gave a talk at Elms College recently on his new book, Pope Leo XIV, Inside the Conclave at the Dawn of a New Papacy, said one consensus among cardinals was that a majority appreciated Pope Francis's vision of the Church that was inclusive and open to the world. An old bit of Roman wisdom says, he who enters the conclave as Pope exits as a cardinal. Such was the case for the leading candidates as the conclave began to debate and cast ballots. Cardinals Parolin from Italy, Taglio from the Philippines, and Erdo from Hungary were all seen as having liabilities.
Because Cardinal Parolin's work had been kind of at the global diplomatic level, many people thought he doesn't bring the pastoral experience that we were looking for. He's a wonderful diplomat, but he's not the most charismatic figure. And I think a lot of people thought we need a pope who can connect with an audience.
Cardinal Erdo fell victim to the same criticism as being a poor communicator and non-charismatic. As for Cardinal Taglio,
people feared that he might be too nice, effectively, that he might get eaten alive by the Vatican's bureaucracy, and that he just didn't have the management heft that being the job required.
The first day of the conclave concluded with one ballot. When no one candidate had the votes, black smoke emerged from the Sistine Chapel. Day two began with 2 ballots cast in the morning, still with no decision. However, the name of an American, Robert Francis Prevost, surprisingly began to gain support and momentum.
The thinking has historically been that, you've got the American president who's already the most important person in the world, that you don't want an American pope as well.
Born in Chicago, Prevost joined the Augustinians at the age of 20. He spent a year in Peru, then after a short stint in the U.S., returned there as a professor to teach canon law. He became head of the Augustinian province in Chicago, then was elected prior of the Worldwide Augustinian Order while living in Peru.
In that capacity, he traveled all over the world in the 54 countries that they operate in. And so he got to understand the global church but he also knew how to do the nuts and bolts of managing a big budget. And I think because of that, they thought, okay, this is someone who gets both sort of the practical know-how aspects of the job and the visionary aspects of the job that they admired in Francis and wanted to continue.
Prevost is a polyglot and speaks 5 languages, which meant communication was his strong point.
What was most attractive is the fact that he checked a lot of boxes. He had missionary experience in Peru, and that gave him the support of a lot of the South American bishops who really didn't see him as an American. They saw him as one of their own. He had a strong block from Europe and also his home country of the United States.
In 2023, Pope Francis brought Prevost to Rome to head the dicastery for bishops, a high-profile position where he became familiar with the Central Church administration.
Then he had experience of those in Rome that had worked with him that just saw him as a very capable man who could navigate the Vatican's often sort of arcane and outdated ways of doing business.
After a 3rd round of voting, the cardinal's support coalesced around Prevost, who received more than the 2/3 majority required. After the 4th and final round of voting, he reportedly received more than 100 votes. White was on set with Bishop Robert Barron of Minnesota, who believed Cardinal Parolin was elected.
I said, I believe it's Cardinal Prevost. And then he laughed at me and dismissed the idea as a pure fantasy that only Vatican watchers could dream up in hopes of selling newspapers. I haven't heard back from him since then.
When white smoke emerged, 40,000 were present in St. Peter's Square. 150,000 cheered when Pope Leo XIV appeared on the balcony as the first American pope. Elected at 69, he could serve many years as pontiff. White speculated on Leo's vision going forward.
Substantively, he's very much continuing on the same path that Francis initiated, but with a very different style. I think that's where we'll see the most difference. Certainly their priorities to date have been the same. Migration, as you said, climate change, concern for the poor and marginalized. Those are front burner issues for Leo as they were with Francis.
Pope Leo is viewed by some as not your typical American because he spent so much of his life in Peru as a missionary-type figure.
That doesn't mean that we can't take a lot of pride in him, and he's not shying away from the fact that he's an American. We've seen him eating Chicago pizza and holding up, his White Sox jersey. At the same time, I think he's eager to show that he's going to be Pope, not just for his home country, but for everyone.
It remains to be seen where this Pope will ultimately lead the world's Catholics. However, more recently, he has not backed down from criticism leveled by the current administration. Pope Leo has indicated he would remain outspoken in condemning the war in Iran, promoting peace and unity, and stressing that his role is to preach the gospel, not enter into political disputes. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
As Steve mentioned, and as everyone has heard by now, the Holy Father was called out by President Trump last week for the Pope's condemnation of the ongoing military actions across the Middle East and the suggestion by the president that the U.S. military might wipe out much of the country's infrastructure, causing mass casualties. Bishop Byrne joined bishops around the world in supporting the Pope as he preaches a message of peace. You can read his statement on iobserve.org, where you'll find coverage on this issue and the Holy Father's trip to the African continent. That's iobserve.org. And our thanks to the College of Our Lady of the Elms, most especially the communications team, for facilitating our interview. Mass Citizens for Life held an educational event at UMass last weekend to draw attention to the huge spike in the numbers of abortions in this state and to honor the lives lost. Carolyn McGrath was there and has the story.
For the first time, Massachusetts Citizens for Life held the Truth About Choice Memorial at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, Sunday, April 12th, on the South Lawn. Using thousands of fetal models, the visual memorial represented the numbers of babies lost to abortion in 2024, a number that has skyrocketed due to telehealth and medical abortions. The entire display represented more than 49,000 abortions in Massachusetts in 2024, and those numbers are from the State Department of Health. More than half of those abortions were performed on out-of-state residents. 31,000 of the abortions were medical abortions or the abortion pill. Myrna Maloney Flynn is the president of Mass Citizens for Life.
This event is called Truth About Choice, and it is designed to open the eyes of students here at UMass Amherst to the truth about abortion, to the truth about the choice that women are supposed to run toward. And we're hoping that this visual of 49,000 babies will wake the students up to the humanity of the unborn.
According to the Massachusetts Department of Health, in 2023, there were 24,355 abortions in the state. In 2024, that number jumped to 49,450. And so what do you attribute that jump to?
Largely, it's the way that the state of Massachusetts is marketing abortion to out-of-state women, women who live in states where pro-life protections are on the books. We're also knowing that the abortion pill is being shipped to women in other states.
A few pregnancy care center representatives were at the event, including those from Clearway Clinic, a pro-life medical center with 2 locations in Springfield and Worcester, and Branches Family Resource Center with locations in Brattleboro, Vermont, and now Greenfield.
I am the director of Branches Family Resource Center, which is represented for the PRCs in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and in Brattleboro, Vermont. But I'm also a survivor of sex trafficking, so that's what drives what I do and why I'm so passionate about the life of a woman and the life of a child. Our saying and our mission is to save lives, to save souls.
Jean Marie Davis recently opened the Branches Family Resource Center in Greenfield, which replaces the now closed Alternatives Pregnancy Center. She says both of her children were conceived when she was a victim in human trafficking, and those who were sexually abusing her were trying to force her to get an abortion. A pregnancy center in Vermont helped her with her second son. She says life is a gift.
Other than the fact that Jesus Christ is life, because he rose from the dead and from the grave and he's living and active. Other than that part, just the fact that my son, I have 2 children and both of them were supposed to be forced abortions. I was looked to be murdered and yet 11 years ago the pregnancy center saved my child, and now my son runs around. He wants to be a chef, he wants to be a youth pastor, and to know that he comes along and he helps me with women.
Students from the Newman Catholic Center on campus came to the event to support it. Clementine Mankowski, a junior at UMass majoring in public health, says she came right from Mass.
I think it was important for me to come, especially on Divine Mercy Sunday, because I think that a lot of people don't know the reality of what an abortion is, and they choose to blindly believe in abortion because our society tells us that it's something that we should have. So I think that it's important that people are exposed to what a baby actually is. And hopefully it'll, even if, people don't agree, they'll go home with, the seed in their heart and sort of start to rethink what it means to have an abortion and what defines a baby.
And while those who oppose this message have been peaceful, there was just a person who ran by and knocked over the table, which is why they're resetting up that display. But organizers say it's critically important to be here, even among those who don't agree with them, to get the truth out about the violence of abortion.
Even if they're seeing it at a distance, even if they are vocalizing one message, they're seeing another, and they will have that memory with them. We're planting a seed here today.
The Knights of Columbus Amherst Council sponsored the event, which did have a police presence. A similar event will be held in Boston on May 2nd. Reporting for Reel to Reel in Amherst, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Thanks, Carolee. Some sobering facts. And still to come on this edition of Reel to Reel, Kathy Harrington will have the story of Springfield parishioners who are reaching out to the homebound, keeping them connected to their parish community. And Steve Kiltonick returns with an Earth Day story and ways everyone can care for creation in their own lives. And it's all still ahead on Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio,
just finished this today,
and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
Whatsoever you do to the least of my people, that you do unto me.
I'm Bishop William Byrne. The annual Catholic Appeal is our chance to help those in need, the homeless, the hungry, and our partnering organization. Please join me in answering Jesus' call to love your neighbor by donating at diospringfield.org.
That you do unto me.
Finding ways to keep the sick and homebound engaged in the life of their parish can be challenging. But Sacred Heart Parish in Springfield found a twist on the elementary school Valentine's box that got everyone involved. Kathy Harrington has the story now of Project Sunshine.
I say more good deeds make the world better.
Sacred Heart Springfield parishioner Gina Massa is about to head into Palm Sunday Mass. People are already filling the church, holding up palms for the blessing. It's the start of Holy Week, leading up to Easter morning and the triumphant news of the resurrection. For Catholics, a busy week lays ahead. Finding time for confession, the priestly renewal of vows and blessing of sacred oils at the Chrism Mass, Holy Thursday and the institution of the Eucharist, the Way of the Cross on Good Friday, and as Jesus lay in the tomb on Holy Saturday, the blessing of the food. Events homebound and nursing home parishioners miss out on. They remember Easters gone by, the Mass, family pictures, dressed in Easter finery complete with white gloves, hats, and patent leather shoes, and suits and ties. An Easter feast that began with grace and was followed by the egg hunt. Some traditions erased by the years. Parish pastoral ministries find ways to bridge the gap.
Sacred Heart has a great outreach program to go to those who are homebound or unable to come here. We go to them with greetings, with spiritual, sacramental, and even social means to bring them closer to us.
Sunshine Chart, it's a great thing that happens at Easter and Christmas.
Melinda Mandeville helps coordinate a unique outreach at Sacred Heart Parish.
The rectory office staff prints out address labels, names and address labels for the nursing home and homebound, and we put them all on the Sunshine Chart.
Slots on 2 bright yellow posters are filled with 10 labels for each nursing home and homebound parishioner.
I see this beautiful poster that the volunteers here at Sacred Heart put together. It looks happy, and I want to participate. And why not put our faith in action? So I look for it on all these holidays, and I participate.
I took about 5 cards. Yeah.
Do you know who the people are?
No. I just signed it, Donna, a friend of Sacred Heart Parish, so they know where it came from.
Donna DiMascola of Palmer is a lifelong Sacred Heart parishioner.
Someday I wish I get one. Hopefully I'm not, homebound or in a facility, but I hope I have somebody that's kind enough to send a card.
We send Easter cards to share the joyful good news of the risen Christ, God's love for everyone. The messages they contain encourage our loved ones on their faith journey, reminding them that there's more to life than the here and now. But the Easter images and messages do more than that for the homebound and the men and women in nursing homes. They evoke colorful memories of Easter's past.
Most of the people that get the cards tend to be homebound, so they don't get to Mass. And this is the beauty of sending these cards, because we go out to them even in a card form. It's so nice.
There's one woman that she loves it so much that she has a bulletin board in her room, and she posts all the cards, Easters and Christmas on the bulletin board so she can keep track of everything.
And as Massa sends out Easter hope, here's the message. Dear Marie, happy Easter from your friends at Sacred Heart Church, and from all of us at Real to Real. In Springfield, I'm Kathy Harrington.
Earth Day is coming up on Wednesday, April 22nd, and Catholics across America are looking for ways to implement care for creation in their own lives, homes, and neighborhoods. as outlined by Pope Francis in his groundbreaking encyclical, Laudato Si'. Steve Kiltonick spoke to Springfield Bishop William Byrne and several individuals involved in carrying on the Pope Francis mission of environmental stewardship in rural America through farming and integral ecology.
Last September, Springfield Bishop William Byrne celebrated a special Care for Creation Mass at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church with Father Kingsley Ihajerica, the late Father Henry Dorsch, and Deacon Bill Toller. Toller is a member of the Diocese Care for Creation Committee, established by Bishop Byrne to implement Pope Francis's 2015 encyclical letter, Laudato Si', which is his call to care for our common home. In his homily, Bishop Byrne explained that as a young priest, he decided to grow a vegetable garden.
I nurtured this little garden, but I quickly realized that God had not blessed me with a green thumb. The end of the season, I had 2 zucchini. That all totaled probably cost me about $87 each. But they were good zucchini. When we talk about our care for creation, sure, we should advocate for legislation to try and protect our air and our waters. But we have to wake up every day and we have to do what we need to do in our own small way. Reuse, recycle, reduce.
After Mass, Bishop Byrne blessed the small community garden outside at the front of the church. Amen. Praise to you, my Lord, through our sister Mother Earth, who sustains and governs us. Pope Francis begins his encyclical Laudato Si' with the words of St. Francis of Assisi and his Canticle of the Creatures. In response to Laudato Si' and Care for Creation, a series of Lenten talks on the theme Faith, Food, and the Environment was held at Saints Patrick and Raphael in Williamstown. James Ennis, the president and executive director of Catholic Rural Life for the past 18 years, spoke on the topic, Why Eating is a Moral Act. Catholic Rural Life, based in St. Paul, Minnesota, was founded in 1923 by Father Edwin O'Hara, who grew up on a dairy farm.
He had a passion for rural. He really saw the need for evangelization, for discipleship in rural communities. Our organization's mission is promoting Catholic life in rural America. So we work with dioceses, parishes, laymen and women, training leaders to be more effective in their ministry in rural communities through workshops, conferences, through our training materials.
Catholic Rural Life has members in 35 chapters in all 50 states. The organization works with 80 dioceses across the country with a focus on teaching clergy, pastors, and deacons how to be more effective in evangelization discipleship and in helping congregations and laity to be more confident, competent, and courageous in their Catholic faith. They also organize rural celebrations, educational events, and processions around the Feast of St. Isidore, the patron saint of farmers. The 60 million living in rural America face many challenges, especially Catholics.
One is pastors having to cover multiple parishes, covering 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 parishes, and covering 200 miles in their routine. Another challenge is just the decline in rural communities, and that's because of the consolidation within agriculture, but also the challenges of keeping economic viability in these rural towns.
Climate change is another significant factor for those working the land.
They have to adjust every year. And so farmers play a key role in conservation, in exercising conservation practices that reduce runoff into rivers and reduce the amount of pollution that goes into the air.
Ennis said those who live in rural areas often feel like second-class citizens, with metro regions getting most of the attention.
We work with them to affirm that the church really values all those who live in rural communities and how important it is, especially those men and women who work in agriculture. No farms, no food.
Ennis said Pope Francis's Laudato Si' encyclical is an important document.
And it was a game changer because he laid out the Catholic teaching and doctrine on why to be good stewards of the environment and how the important role that farmers play in that. He talks about integral ecology. And that is an ecological conversion is how he puts it. And what he means by that is another way of seeing nature as gift.
Ennis says he constantly talks to farmers for their reaction to climate change, tariffs, and cuts in the USDA and other government programs.
I see the transformative effect of our organization on affirming farmers, working with farmers all across the country. I love working with farmers, and it's a real blessing.
Catholic Rural Life recently partnered with the St. Kateri Institute, which is now an official chapter of the organization. St. Kateri Tekakwitha is a patron saint of the environment. Franciscan Sister of the Eucharist, Sister Damian Marie Savino, spoke on her latest book, Learning the Language of Creation, Catholic Social Teaching and Integral Ecology. Her topic was Integral Ecology for Faith and Food. Sister Savino is a professor of civil and environmental engineering and earth sciences at the University of Notre Dame. Integral technology, the central concept of Laudato Si', is grounded in the idea that caring for creation involves restoring both natural and human ecologies.
As we design solutions to ecological challenges, we should try to design them so they benefit both the natural ecology and the human communities. That has been, I think, a theme in my work for many years, even before Laudato Si' came out.
Sister Savino said many of the environmental solutions we design in the future will be through engineering.
I'm proposing a kind of engineering that would sort of author life from underneath, so in accord with the rhythms that are in nature. So using our scientific understanding to understand the laws that are inscribed in this book of nature, and then developing our designs in accord with those laws. Because I think people are very interested in food and how we grow our food, and there are many issues with industrial agriculture, so I'm going to propose regenerative agriculture as one example of integral ecology and how that could affect how we grow our food.
Sister Savino said the Franciscan Sisters of the Eucharist feel a spiritual connection with nature.
We work our lands wherever we are, and we do a lot of physical work, but it's actually a way of spirituality too. That something of the laws of the Creator speak to you when you're working in the soil or with plants or with animals.
Jim Ennis and Sister Damian Marie Savino, both of whom are incorporating Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si' into their daily lives and showing how all Catholics can benefit from the interrelatedness between faith, food, and the environment. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
And a Great Earth Day event will be held on Wednesday, April 22nd at 5:30 at Mary Mother of Hope Church in Springfield. The Mary Knoll affiliate community is sponsoring an Earth Day celebration which will include a tree planting and a showing of the film Belonging to the Earth. Refreshments will be served and all are welcome to join in the festivities. And if you'd like to join the Care for Creation group, we have contact info at iobserve.org, where you can always stay on top of the latest news on the Catholic Church. And we have national and international news from our partners at Our Sunday Visitor. You can also find episodes and stories from Real to Real and other Catholic communications programs. That's all at iobserve.org. We are also on Facebook. Follow us there at Catholic Communications. And a programming note for our viewers on WWLP TV 22. Next week, we will be coming to you at a special day and time of Sunday, April 26th at 6:30 a.m. Please share that with your friends and family. Real to Real, next Sunday at 6:30 a.m. on WWLP TV 22. All other viewers on Catholic TV will see us at our regular time. So I will see you then for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Have a great week.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.
Whatsoever you do to the least of my people, that you do unto me.
I'm Bishop William Byrne. The annual Catholic Appeal is our chance to help those in need, the homeless, the hungry, and our partnering organization. Please join me in answering Jesus' call to love your neighbor by donating at diospringfield.org.